One of my favourite games of all time is Magic the Gathering, the quintessential dueling card game, whose incredible mechanics have stood the test of time and whose deck construction elements have tickled the pickle of millions of Timmy Tammys, Johnny Jennies and Spikes over the last 30 plus years. However, despite its litany of introductory products and formats intended to remove the barrier to entry, it is still an absolute behemoth of a game to consider getting into. And as well, deck construction might just not be your thing. So here we are today, bringing you 10 of the absolute best out-of-the-box dueling card games that will only require just one purchase, a small parcel of shelf space, and at most incorporate a limited sprinkling of deck construction. So join me please as we count from 1 to 10. Now just to troll the list, we kick things off with a game by Magic the Gathering's designer, Richard Garfield. Keyforge is a unique deck game where every pack of cards is algorithmically generated and truly one of a kind. That's right, Garfield goes no deck construction. Instead of a mana system, players choose one of 3 factions each turn, playing as many cards from that faction as they like. Cards are usually only placed on either end of your tableau, which is relevant from both an offensive and defensive perspective. So strategic sequencing of the cards you play is oh so important. At its core though, it brings all the usual keyword, attack and health tropes from all games of its ilk. The end goal then is to forge 3 keys before your opponent by capturing or gathering amber, which all makes for a fairly fast paced game with a decent smattering of unpredictability. Mage Wars Academy is a spellcasting dueling game where players control mages using a preset spellbook instead of drawing cards randomly. Each turn mages choose their spells from their book and cast them using mana, summoning creatures, placing enchantments and attacking their opponent. The core battlefield presence in this game really feels like Magic, but the combat, which gives more of the agency to the attacker, and everything else that comes in the box, strides a different path. The spellbook is a great addition because it gives you some added flexibility in your choices, and the addition of some dice rolling grabs the randomness back into the fold that the spellbooks took away. Just a great all-round game. Radlands is a post-apocalyptic dueling card game where players compete to defend their 3 camps while attacking their opponents. The game uses a tight resource system, Water, to manage actions, recruit people and trigger events. What makes this so out the box ready is that both players are sharing one deck, one communal closed marketplace of chicanery to build your defences and offences. The battlefield precipitates its own strategy, with which lane but also how far forward you place your minions mattering. And the action queuing brings vital sequencing and timing to the forefront. With its vibrant art and strategic hand management, Radlands offers a great deal of replayability in such a small package. Omen Reign of War is a 2-player tactical card game set in a Greek mythologically based war-torn world, where players take on the roles of divine offspring of Zeus, vying for dominance. The game is a blend of strategic hand management, tactical unit deployment and area control. At its core, Omen revolves around deploying units such as soldiers, beasts or oracles onto contested cities, each then earning rewards and leveraging powerful card effects to outmaneuver the opponent. Unlike many dueling card games that focus on direct combat between players, Omen shifts the focus more towards regional battles and control, making every decision feel like a grand tactical manoeuvre on an epic mythological scale. Ashes Reborn, Rise of the Phoenixborn is a dice supplemented tactical card battler where players take on the role of Phoenixborn, powerful beings wielding magic and summoning creatures to battle. Instead of a mana system, players roll custom dice at the start of the round to determine the resources they have available. Said resources though are tier based, so higher tier rolls can also be used as lesser rolls. This enables a more dynamic approach to generating and using resources compared to your average card jeweler. Combat itself gives even more agency to both the attacker and defender, choosing with who and what they intend to attack and who will be blocking respectively. A proven system that even has its own solo and co-op expansions. Okay, let's take an unannounced half-time break to talk about a couple of honourable mentions. As is the nature with card games, they do tend to be prone to burning bright and then fading away. Or, as is the case with these two, just very hard to come by. If these got a reprint or an influx of supply, they would absolutely have found their way onto this list. First is Blue Moon, a 2-player card game featuring asymmetrical factions battling for dominance. Each faction has a pre-built deck with Unix playstyles, and players must outmaneuver their opponent by managing hand strength and tactical plays. The game emphasises bluffing, hand management and faction synergy, making it a tightly designed duel system with stacks of replayability. Then we have a real favourite of mine, Codex Card Time Strategy, a portmanteau of real-time strategy and card game that does what it says on the tin, just in a turn-based fashion. Heavily inspired by real-time strategy video games, instead of pre-building decks, players build their deck as they play, choosing which cards enter their rotation. The game rewards long-term strategic planning, taking into stronger units and spells as the game progresses. Back to the list proper then, and because the man is a genius, we have to start part 2 of this list with another Richard Garfield game, albeit one he only co-designed this time. Mindbug is a minimalist dueling card game where players summon powerful creatures with unique effects. The twist sees players using one of their 2 Mindbugs per game, allowing them to steal an opponent's freshly minted and pack fresh creature. This makes every turn a tense tactical decision of how long do I push my luck, waiting for the optimal time to snatch that booty. On the one hand, that's a flimsy tenet for a game, but this is meant to be on the more easy breezy end of the complexity spectrum anyway, and remains a joy to play. Riftforce is a lane-based dueling game where players draft elemental factions and battle for control of a row of available zones. Each turn, players can play up to 3 cards from their hand of the same faction or same power level, anywhere between 5 and 7. Or they can activate cards already played using a similar choice but by discarding a card of the same type or number. Often then when your hand is spent, that's the opportune time to take the third possible action, that being to check how many zones you control, progress towards the win condition and refill your hand. Each faction has its own playstyle and the sequence you play your minions matters, as it's usually the front creature taking the damage. This is a game that leans heavily on tempo and it is a delight to play. Epic Card Game is a fantasy dueling game that captures the feel of Magic the Gathering but removes mana constraints and instead focuses on big bombastic turns of rotating cards sideways and smashing face. Each player does get 1 gold a turn though, which can be used to play 1 massive creature or world-ending spell a turn, with some peasant free cards also available for you to play that pack a supportive punch. Every card feels like it's itching to be remembered, leading to explosive turns and big combos. A game like this you would think would just feel like rock'em sock'em robots, but there is some ducking and diving to be done, and knowing exactly when and how hard to go still offers a pleasant smattering of strategy. So it's time now to talk about a combined entry, necessitated by the fact that acquiring one or both games might be troublesome depending on where you are. Either way, the Exceed fighting system is your first choice, a fast-paced, deck-driven fighting game, similar to its big sibling BattleCon, but with more randomness and flexibility. Players draw from a character-specific deck and play attacks, building up your gauge resource to perform super attacks. Exceed brings a true fighting game experience to card dueling. Your backup plan then is the aforementioned BattleCon, a tactical fighting card game, similarly inspired by Street Fighter and its ilk. Each player selects a character and uses a fixed deck of attacks, combining bases and styles to create new moves. BattleCon is completely deterministic. There's no deck shuffling or drawing, making it a little bit more akin to a board game than Exceed ultimately is. And finally, because we couldn't resist, we thought we'd bookend this list with another visit from Mr. MTG himself, Richard Garfield. Once again a co-design. SolForge Fusion is a deck dueling game where cards level up as they are played, becoming more powerful over time. Players this time bring 2 half decks and shuffle them together, creating unique deck combinations each game. The combat system is lane based, where creatures battle directly against those in their respective lanes, adding that extra layer of positional strategy to proceedings. The game's interesting levelling system, where cards evolve and become stronger every time they're played, add a nice flavour to the game, and provide the platform for a jolly good way to end this list. So, as the man said, there you have 10 of the absolute best out of the box card dueling, light on deck construction games you can play with a friend. How liberating to just unbox a game and go. I do hope you found what you're looking for in this list. Alas, I've been the voice of Benji, and this video has ended.